Hey, everybody, welcome. And thank you for listening to this episode of Marriage Therapy Radio. My name is Zach Brittle. And this week, we are headed across the pond. I'm talking today to my friends Victoria and Adam. They are in London. Victoria Shalet is a therapist there. Adam James is an actor. You've probably seen him in some stuff. Victoria was herself a child actor for a while before transitioning into therapy. And I met them about a year and a half ago and just really enjoyed hearing their story and understanding a little bit of how they make their relationship work. We talked today about how their experience in the theater world impacts and affects the way that they show up in relationships. I got to ask some questions I haven't really ever thought of before, even though my kid is in the drama world. I want to give a shout out to some of my heroes of the week. Taylor and Kay have become new subscribers to my blog, which is called Stuff I Write. I'm trying to put something out about once a week and just exercise my muscles. I'd be grateful if you'd go to stuffiwrite.com, become a subscriber. I'm writing about things that aren't relationship oriented. So if that's of interest to you, then check it out. I also want to say hi to Dan McKeever, who is faithful to write me with some pep talks from time to time. He really enjoyed our series with Dr. Shannon Curry. If you haven't checked that out, she's a sharp one and really enjoyed chatting with her about her perspective on therapy and relationships. She was, for now at least, my last run at having a co-host to hang out with and try and explore topics individually. I'm going to shift now toward interviewing couples. Got a whole bunch lined up. I'm very excited. Come across a wide spectrum of experiences and personality types. And I might also say relationship health. Some folks are doing great. Some people are not doing that great. And they've all agreed to come on and share their experience with me and with you. We're going to start with Victoria and Adam from London. This is a very cool conversation. Stick around. I'm glad to talk to you guys. I started this thing, Victoria and I, or Victoria may know this, but I started this thing a while back, Adam, that I wanted to interview people who were married to relationship experts and just see what was like really going on behind the scene. Do you feel like you're married to a relationship expert?
Yes, I do. And then it's interesting because then we have our own couples therapy. And therapist set up the course and the training that Vix undertook. So it was interesting having those sessions because she would slightly scrutinize her in a different way or held her to a slightly different standard somewhat. So it was interesting to see someone who's so accomplished in her own field be challenged by someone with just that much more experience, particularly in the realms of our relationship. And I found that very interesting. And I think I could see sort of exponential learning happening on Vix's side as a result. But it was interesting because it wasn't quite like, you know, the pupil becomes the master, not in this instance anyway. But out of that environment, I do feel like I'm with, you know, somebody who's very skilled at her job and her profession. And like when we're out socializing, particularly if we're meeting new people, I always pride myself on my sense of perception of people. It's definitely, my perception of others is definitely a product of my upbringing and education, which doesn't hold me in a great light. So sometimes I do, or more frequently, I defer to Vix's perception of it. And more often than not, her perception is 100% right, particularly if these are people that continue to go on into our lives and something that I would never have seen or would have discounted it as an observation that she made totally becomes the case or true. So yeah, I'm definitely living with someone who knows her stuff.
No pressure.
Yeah. No, I hear you. How do you feel about that she's right all the time? Is that a blessing? Is it a curse?
I'm definitely not right all the time.
I think even she would admit she's not right all the time. But no, it's.
I'm only asking that question because I think that's what I heard you say. This idea that she has this perception about what happens or what's going on relationally around you.
Okay.
And that she's 100% right. Like, if I heard it differently, let me know.
No, I think that's right. I think those basic perceptions of people and their behaviors and what she can interpret from that in a relatively short space of time is 100% down to the profession that she has chosen, you know, in a way that other people just won't perceive it in the same way. Maybe over a longer period of time they would, but she's so incisive and so quick. It's really forensic and it's really immediate, that distillation of the person in front of her. And I rather like it. I rather like it because I like to be right, or I like to be well informed.
Yeah.
So it's great that there's someone that can assist in that.
I feel like I've got that going on when I'm like looking at people and I'm like, I know who they are. I know what they're about. I know what's going to happen next. I don't, but I don't know if I'm cocky or if I'm correct or whatever, but I do know that my wife has no interest in knowing what I think until she solicits it. She's like, I'll just sit back and I'll just wait and wait and wait.
Yes.
Waits to find out?
No, it's more like, if we're in a social setting and we're trying to navigate something, particularly if we have to like make a decision or make a move, I generally let her run the show because she's the more social, but if I've got a theory or if I've got an idea, I have to sit on it a little bit until she says, what do you think? Because that might be the cocky part of me that comes forward and says, well, this is all the things that I think. And I trust her to let me know when
if she wants to hear that,
when I'm allowed to say it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think there's a dance in there. I think sometimes I will say it, but sometimes you'll come and ask me, what do you think? And then I think what we're talking about is observation. And I think that what we're trained to do as therapists, and if we weren't already, and I think most of us who come to this profession are observers in lots of ways. And we've had to be. So it largely comes from, I don't know whether that's trauma or whether that's just, the environments that we grew up in. There's a I wouldn't go so far to say it's always vigilance, but there's certainly an observation and reading a room and reading people.
Yeah.
I also think there's part of that superpower, for want of a better expression, in having that ability to really decipher and disseminate and determine people in a relatively short space of time is, as you say, is to hold that within yourself until it's either requested from you or it's the way in which I feel like a lot of you practice, like the work that you do with couples or with people, is to help guide them, but let them do the work themselves rather than being told it. So it's a very attractive quality to be able to seemingly sit there and have the answers or the directions of the paths you want to lead them down, but having to be patient enough to wait for when they're ready to do that, or showing you those signs that that's the direction in which they want to go, rather than going, I would be so impatient. I'd be like, oh, for Christ's sake, look, you're this, this, and this. You're doing this, this, and this. If you stop doing that, that, and that, you'll get to X, Y, and Z. Get on with it.
Yeah.
But of course,
kind of what we do in RLT.
Yeah, a little bit.
I suppose, yes, yeah. What is that Terry's sort of method?
Yeah, because it's a lot more directive than a lot of therapy trainings.
Well, that's why I prefer couples work to individual work, because it is outcome based. It's like, hey, what do you want? You want better sex? You want less conflict? You want more communication?
Yeah.
Okay, well then do this. Don't do that. Which is very different, of course.
That's not working.
It's not like, does that work? No, it doesn't work. Okay, maybe stop doing it.
It is a sort of common question I get from the lay person. It's like, oh God, what's it like to be, married to a psychotherapist? And there's an odd curiosity, I suppose, about anything new like that. It's like Vix always has this example of going to a dinner party or a cocktail party and people doing that thing and going, oh, what do you do? And she tells them, and they either lean into it and go, oh my gosh, that's fascinating.
Right.
Or they literally turn away and go, no, I don't want to be looked at by her at all because I know she can see all the flaws, or she's going to read me and I don't want to see the mirror. So, I get it. I get asked it a lot. And I think it's a good thing. I think what was interesting when we first met, she'd just newly trained, and there was a lot of therapy speak that was being utilized in our sort of everyday conversation
because Victoria, this is like a late career change for you.
Yeah. I mean, insofar as I was 27, 28 when I started to retrain, because I had spent 20 years being an actor. I started as a child actor. And so, it was a late change in that, it was second career. But
does it, I want to ask about acting, but in a second, but if you're 25, are you still a child actor?
I felt like it.
Yeah.
I felt like it. I felt like, most casting directors, people had known me since I was a kid.
Yeah.
And so they didn't meet me as an adult. I was the kid who'd grown up. So and that's what makes the transition so hard for a lot of people who start in childhood, because people don't meet you as an adult.
Yeah. And they
don't
kind of
think
watch you grow up.
Yeah. And
in
it's so
some ways.
exposing. So you can't try on different things. You can't be a version of yourself that you haven't been before. I mean, people do try and do that, but you know, it's hard. Yeah. But it wasn't lighting me up anymore.
Yeah.
So I really wanted
Adam, do
to
you have
something
child actor in your experience, or did you come to acting later?
I think there was always a performative part of me and my personality. As a child, I was an only child, and it was a way of receiving attention. But no, I don't think I was not formally a child actor. No, I came to it later, and I just trained. I went to university. I dropped out of university, knew that I was sort of done with academia and wanted to train as an actor.
Yeah.
So then I applied to, a series of drama schools. And
while we're here, I'll linger here. There's something I've been wanting to say. I was like, on today's episode, we have one of the stars of Wicked.
Well, that would be pushing it in the extreme. I think you could say we have a person who's appeared fleetingly.
Did you? What was it? Like Victoria said, maybe it was 7 seconds or 17 seconons. I was ready. I had my eyes peeled. I wanted to see what it was. But.
Yeah, I think we counted. I think it's about 7 seconds in movie 1. I'm going to guesstimate in movie 2 that might extend to 17 seconds because there are definitely 2 big sequences in which I'm involved. But who knows how these things get edited.
Yeah. And was that mostly green screen?
No, I mean that. Well, a lot of it was obviously, but the sequences I was involved with were these huge. That's where all the money went. That's why these movies were so expensive to make, because it was a throwback to the old days of movie making. They were huge. There were 3 enormous external sets that weren't on sound stages.
Yeah.
And that was quite spectacular to see the scale at which they were making those things, which was deliberate. I think it was a throwback to The Wizard of Oz. I think it was a throwback to when movies got made at that scale.
Yeah.
And that's where you'd see a lot of the money. And then, yes, there was a lot of green screen stuff, but there were huge sets built in these sound stages. It was amazing. I've just done a little bit more additional filming for it. And, they knock up these unbelievable sets. So yeah, the scale of it was impressive, but the end result, yes, to go back to your point, to say that I was starring in it, I would say I appear fleetingly.
And did she tell you that I was watching Day of the Jackal, and I was like, hey, look, there's Adam. That's kind of fun.
Oh, yes.
And she was like, more to come. And I was like, oh, that's cool. I'm proud of him. Good job. And then at the end, spoiler alert, everybody, I was like, he's a fucking bad guy? Like, that's not cool. Like,
Yeah. And there literally was more to come. But again, that actually was the first project I've ever really been involved in where the end result was so different to my experience of filming it. There was a very definitive narrative arc that I had, or my character had in it. And they normally exist, particularly at that stage. But because these scripts kept coming late and they were wrangling so many different story arcs and narratives, the final product, and unbeknownst to me, they don't give you a heads up or anything like that. I mean, I did a little bit of ADR, which is sort of additional dialogue recording you do after the filming, where I thought, they've compressed 3 scenes into 1 there. How have they edited that? So again, that narrative strand got really cut down. So I definitely was in that a lot more. And then the end result meant that I was in it a lot less. So that's always disappointing. I mean, that's the frustration with filming over stage work anyway, is, you have so little control.
So here's what I want to ask now. I don't know if there's anything here in this question, but this is why I'm eager to have you guys on. When you think about the job of acting or the role of acting, what does it have to say to the role of being in relationship or the role of being a partner? Where does being good at that thing make you good or bad at this other thing, which is arguably the more important thing of actually being authentic or being real? Like I wonder about that, and thought maybe you guys would have some thoughts on it.
Gosh.
Listening.
Okay.
Good actors listen. And to be in relationship, you need to listen.
Yeah.
I would say. Do you think?
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah. I think that acting is, because it's not a consistent thing unless you're in something for a very long period of time, which most actors aren't. You're you're doing one job, then you're doing another job. And there's this you've got to meet different people all the time. Mm. And in that, to really, really have satisfying connection, and certainly to be a good actor, you have to listen. If you're not listening, you're just performing, which isn't necessarily, and it's what people do in relationship. They're just performing from an ego, from a place that is, this is what I feel and think, but you're not listening to the other. You're not in connection and in relationship. So that's what I take from what it has to teach you about relationships.
There's something also about the freedom of not being yourself, but being afforded an opportunity to emotionally explore a character. And there have been a couple of incidences in my professional career, mainly in theatre, where I have found this well of emotion has bubbled up inside of me because of the nature of a scene, that when I look back on it, is directly related to work that I have not done or addressed in my actual life. So relationships with my father or with my parents. But weirdly, in the safety of the character or performance, the emotion can come. And then there's a single part of you going, well, this is good because this is really real and effective. And it really feels like I'm upset here. And my peers and colleagues going, Christ, that's some amazing work. But actually all it is unresolved work that I'm not doing in my real life. But just by the quirk of fate that the drama is requiring or the scene requires in that moment, it releases all of that in me. So there's a weird catharsis in performance as well.
You're kind of doing the work.
You're sort of doing
unconsciously.
Yeah. And also I always get to play sort of slightly malaligned or characters, difficult characters or baddies for, as a genre. And there's something very cathartic in that. There's something very cathartic in being allowed to behave badly in that arena. But what was striking to me was sort of untapped emotion that, that's in me that needs to come out, that only will come out in that arena because it's not really me. Whereas arguably that's the work I need to do.
Yeah. And if I follow on from that, it's a kind of integration, isn't it? It's a kind of, if you think about the work that we do as therapists, is to help people to integrate the light, the dark, the shade, that all of us ourselves, all the interjects, all of everything, and to kind of really embody who you are fully, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And if you get to explore those in roles as an actor, then it's trying something on, feeling yourself in a different way. So you do learn about yourself. There is that potential. It's whether you I suppose like a lot of experiences, do you then do the integration piece? And does it actually translate into relationship?
There's a fantastic satirical show that I've been watching recently by a guy called Nathan Fielder. Do you know who I mean by this?
Oh, yeah. The Rehearsal?
The Rehearsal.
Yeah.
And it's dealing with exactly this sort of scenario, even though it's for comedic effect and it's a satire. There's the heart of it is completely exactly what you're asking. What is the difference between acting and relational stuff? And can performance actually help unlock the work you need to do in your actual life? It's really fascinating.
Okay. I don't think I would label that show satire. Maybe I don't understand satire, but it seems like he's really earnest.
I think that's the conceit. I think that's, you're right.
I just chalked it up to him being like some kind of strange autistic, savanty sort of character that.
Yeah. I think that's
the only outlet that allowed him to express that. But
well, you might be right. I'm assuming it's a persona he's portraying for the show. But it's funny you say that because this episode that I watched last night is him trying to court the Autistic Society because he wants to get access to a guy in Congress. And the Autistic Society were going, this is exactly the method that we use for kids. We take them through a sort of rehearsal. We take them through a series of real life scenarios so that when they're faced with them in the real world, they're sort of better prepared. It's that, there was an exercise that the autistic lady says, we do this with autistic children, and it's about the eyes. And he would show him a series of images of eyes and they had to read. There would be 4 different suggestions of what the emotion was. And he kept getting them wrong, suggesting that he was autistic. But I sense that was for comedic purposes and for the camera. But you're right. It's a very fine line. That's what's so brilliant about the show. You're like, is this a documentary? Is this comedy? Is this a satire? And I think it's all of them, actually.
All I can tell you is that I watched the first episode of the first season. And it's the one where he's working with the guy who needs to confess that he doesn't have a master's degree.
That's right.
And I when it was over, I was so troubled. I was so disturbed in my own skin. I spent the next day researching the guy. Like I went online to find, like, is he okay? Like where did he end up? Like, did he, does he still have friends? Is he still doing trivia? And he's doing just fine. Just so we're all clear. Like he's okay. He's got pictures of himself on Instagram with Nathan. He's like, this is my friend Nathan, but I was so, I don't know, rocked by the thing. My daughter, who actually is, I think I told Victoria, I think I told you both, but she just graduated from college with a degree in theater studies because she did some acting around Seattle on the stage, and then she was on TV for a second, and she was getting more auditions, and then COVID kind of shut her down. So she went straight to like kind of the academic side, but she brought this home from college. She's like, Dad, you got to watch this. I want to watch it with you. I want to talk about it, So it's funny that you bring that up because I had never heard of it till she introduced it, and here we are.
Well, I urge you to watch the second season, which is all about him trying to get pilots and co-pilots to interact and communicate more, because there's a genuine statistic that most air accidents are particularly as a result of the first officer not feeling they can intervene when a captain is being too didactic and bombastic about their attitude. It's really interesting. That's the leaping off point. And then, but it's but it struck me as you asked that question. I thought, God, I was watching exactly this last night.
This idea of having to practice being in roles and try out different moves in order to gain confidence or gain success in relational environments. Yeah.
He takes it to the, nth degree for entertainment purposes, but the nugget of it is.
But equally, in another documentary we were watching about David Bowie, he was saying, lots of people emulated Bowie and dressed like him and tried things on. And they asked him what it was like that he was being kind of replicated and people were dressing like him. And he said, well, I don't mind. If people are trying on a different version of themselves, then great. That's what I want people to do, because we're not one dimensional. We're not just one version of ourselves. So it's the kind of, that creative world allows us to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's, giving us a sense of ourselves in different environments is great for relationships.
Do you have ways, Victoria, that you're integrating that with your clients and in your world, like that you're having them practice? Or it makes me also think of this whole subset of like parts. There are parts of us,
Yeah. I often talk about the parts work, and I often work in that way. I often work with people who, let's say someone's hiding, and, why did someone need to hide? And oftentimes they didn't have a sense that if they showed up as they were and as they are, they would be loved or connected with. And so they had to get that, or there was enmeshment, and so they couldn't be themselves. So they sidle off and get what they wanted elsewhere. And so I talk about that, about it was a really, wise move. And now it's getting you into trouble in relationship, because it's not that I'm not up for us having privacy, because I think that's, perfectly, appropriate. But how do you find a way to be more open and inclusive of all the parts of you, and then to be accountable? So it was on the call that you did with Terry and Belinda, and Belinda saying, most of us don't look at the introject, the piece that we've become the persecutor. And if you don't look at that, then you're doing yourself and your partner a disservice. And I think that that's the work that is vital to help someone to, who taught you how to do this? Where did you see it? And who didn't stop you when you did it as a kid? Those brilliant questions that Terry has that allows us to normalize and humanize the quote unquote darker, less kind of friendly parts of us.
Yeah.
Less known, usually, less known to ourselves.
Yeah. I've done a fair bit of academic learning about parts, but what dawned on me one day was I realized I found myself saying this sentence, Rebecca's driving me crazy. Rebecca's my wife. Rebecca's driving me crazy. But then what I realized was it was part of Rebecca was driving part of me crazy.
Yeah.
And the second I tapped into that, I was like, whoa, which part am I going to entertain? Am I going to feed? Am I going to, of her? Of me, it was, and now I'm like obsessed with parts. So, which of course is an interesting little semantic trick that the acting career has, right? You're playing a part. It's a part.
But I think what's different in theatre to television is usually you get a bit more space to work out who that character is. Unless you're full method in TV and film, there's not so much time and space to really work out who everyone is, what their background is. And so it does feel more two-dimensional because it's not, as kind of embodied.
Yeah. And the source material is often better in theatre. You're working with a completed play, and often I've done a lot of new writing, so you have the playwright there with you, and it's just the work is just better. There is of course brilliant film and television, but the access to that isn't as readily available. And as Victoria was saying, you have a month, 5 weeks, 6 weeks, 8 weeks to rehearse this work, whereas the economics don't work in the same way for film and television on the whole to afford you that time.
Well, yeah, and we'll have these experiences like, why can't you be like that character on TV? And I'm like, well, because I don't have 9 writers sitting in a room crafting the exact response. Perfect and also response. the thing that's going to solicit, I don't know. And so I imagine too, you get to practice, and then of course the consequences are relatively low. You might have to do another take, or maybe you don't get hired for next gig, but in terms of playing the bad part or playing the risky part or playing the traumatized part, you get to kind of clock out of that and figure out how to bring it back into your world.
Yeah.
Thinking about the idea of practice, the two of you, like, what are you guys practicing? Like, it just in your day to day, when you are trying to make your relationship work, where do you have to practice?
But I still think I practice for anyone who is listening, who knows the work of RLT that we both do, it's catching the whoosh, catching that kind of first consciousness and finding the second consciousness and finding the kind of response rather than the reaction. I think that's, I'm much quicker to it. Well, I can speak for myself and you can speak for yourself. I'm much quicker to it. I think I still trip up. I still react. I still find myself in my one up, walled off position. Is
that where you live? One up, walled off.
Oh yeah, on a bad day.
Yeah.
Bad moment, I hope. But yeah, that's where I live, and it was modeled for me, and also, safe. But it doesn't do me service in relationship. So I have to keep doing that. And then lo and behold, a lot of my clients will turn up and I get that mirrored back to me and I just see it. And if I can speak to myself in a better way of kind of coming down from that, or even coming up from when I'm in the shame-based position, because I don't, we all go up and down. But if I can speak to my clients in the way that I can speak to myself to bring myself back into relationship, then that's how I help people, I think, with compassion and love of having done it myself. Mm-hmm. To kind of get you back into relationship, getting you back into more of what you say you want.
I think our couples therapists really helped. Two big things about not getting the perfect answer straight away, and allowing time for that. And then for me personally, it was my go-to was always blame. So anything that I was reacting to was somebody else's fault. So whatever I was being triggered by lay firmly over there. It was nothing to do with me. Mm-hmm. And the realization that you have to turn that around and go, oh no, that's all information. That's all. I'm working on those triggers and getting interested in the anger or the closed downedness of a reaction. That's been really interesting to me and I guess helpful in our relationship, because it's not everybody else's fault. You go, the common denominator here is me.
Yeah. And that's confronting when you have children and then they start kind of either doing the same or they start calling you out on your, reactivity.
You guys share a son, is that right?
Yeah.
And how old is he?
He is 8.
He's at a very interesting age now, because he's at an age that I got sent away to school, to prep school, to full-on boarding school. And it's been interesting because I was sort of given the heads up by our therapist that this will be a very interesting time, because there will be these unconscious triggers that come up. My son is exactly the age that I was at a time when I, received or got rejected from the status quo of my parental relationships and was literally sent away. And so,
Did you go to Eton?
I didn't go to Eton. No, my prep school was the feeder for Eton and Harrow and Milford and for all of those.
The only reason I know Eton at all is because it's a very popular crossword puzzle answer.
Oh, is it?
Yes.
Right. Okay.
So I've learned a lot about Eton, at least in terms of its reputation.
Sure.
Only because I need 4 letters that start with E.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is he calling you out at 8 already? Is he like?
Yeah. There's a brilliant book by Dr. Amen. It's about an anteater. It's all about autonomic negative thoughts that we all have. And these autonomic negative thoughts that we have, we can either have blaming ants, or we can have kind of lots of different ways of seeing the world, like everything's terrible ants, and they come in and take over our mind. And he uses kind of, well, what if it's not just that and it's not going on, and it's Byron Katie's work that he's fed into it. And it's brilliant for children. And he kind of will call out you in your blaming. I think if both of us on a bad day can be quite short-tempered in certain ways. Yeah. And early on, I realized that was no great for him. I don't mean short-tempered with him or with each other necessarily. I just mean with stuff when something goes wrong, just getting a bit rigid. And of course, then my therapist, brilliant therapist, talked about, naming the shock in children, that they immediately go into a shock when you do that. And then they have their own responses. But if you don't attend to the shock, then you miss helping them kind of come back to regulation. And so I taught him that quite young. I would say, I'm really shocked you. You look shocked. And now he says, you shocked me. So he has that language. I mean, that's a good parenting moment. It's not always like that. But that he can kind of call us out, or just know, well, I didn't like that, or I liked that, or that was, he's got some of that language. Mm-hmm. So that's useful. But it's just, I always say kids are our most beautiful and our most painful mirrors to look at.
Yeah. I want to go back to this dinner party moment that Adam was referencing, where somebody finds out that you're a therapist and maybe they lean in and they say, what's the secret? Like, tell me, what do you tell them? Like, what's your answer? Do you have one?
Well, they usually start telling me about their life, or they want therapy.
Yeah.
They don't want it, but they think they want it. And of course, whether it gives people permission to kind of feel safe immediately, or they start telling me stuff, or they think I can handle it, or they can tell me something they wouldn't tell someone else. And so then there's this kind of sense of being understood or held. And I've had lots of experience of people feeling really warm towards me because I can do that. And then they leave my life because suddenly I've represented this place, a bit like being a therapist, that you're not then in that person's life because you've seen all of those other parts and they don't necessarily want to look in that mirror all the time. So I also had in New York, someone literally, I said it, I'd been talking to them for half an hour and then someone else came along and said, what did I do? And I said I was a psychotherapist, and this person I'd been speaking to for quite a while literally moved away. I mean, properly turned their back and walked away. And it was really striking. I was like, wow, I like I had an X-ray machine, like I knew something, or even that I was that interested. That's the interesting thing. Yes. But I don't know, do you not have that? Do people get interested and lean in?
I mean, I'm one up and walled off. I'm slightly one up. I'm very walled off. So I'm just above the horizon, but I'm pretty far out west. There's a canonical story in our family where I was on vacation and I was standing in the pool, up to my ankles. I know exactly where I was. And this guy, this real estate agent from Los Angeles, was just telling me about his life, and he was asking me questions, and I was asking him questions. And then he said, what about you? What do you do? And I said, well, I'm a couples therapist. And he said, oh, have you been analyzing me and my wife for the last 20 minutes? And I said, well, it depends. Have you been trying to sell me a house in LA for the last 20 minutes? And he was like, brilliant. No. And I was like, yeah, I'm not even kind of interested in your marriage. Like, it's not even a thing that I'm doing. So, I don't typically, what's that?
But now I am.
Yeah. Why? Is there something here that I should be paying attention to? So no, I don't really give away. I don't give away my I actually agree with you. I think you are naturally gifted at just like making people feel safe and warm and comfortable. That's part of why I was drawn to getting to know you better anyway. I don't have that. Like I don't bring my warmth to the table and invite people to, know me. I had 2 people at the conference in Orlando tell me, I feel like you're kind of like avoiding me. And I was like, I'm not avoiding you. I'm just being me. And I don't.
That's so interesting. That's
sorry.
not my take on you. And also I would have made up a story that you were presenting, so you were slightly preoccupied. That would have been my story. Well,
sure. Of course. I do have opinions about the people that said that to me. Of course I do. But I'm always wondering, I want things to be really simple. So I ask therapists this question all the time. Like when people say, what is the secret? What do you tell them? Like, what's the answer? And,
well, the secret I think is, telling people the truth.
Okay. Yeah. In your marriage, you think that?
I think it goes back to that question at the beginning, the kind of the observer part, right?
Yeah.
I think that the secret of being a good therapist and the secret of being good in relationship is observing the other and yourself, like both and all the time, observing and calling them in to the relationship with love and telling them the truth. I'm not talking about out and out truth, honesty about absolutely everything. I'm talking about the relational piece, about calling out the anti-relational aspects of each other with love. Don't you think that that's the piece?
Yeah. Sorry. I wanted to look at this. I want to hear a little bit more about this phrase that you've given me both in writing and now you just said it out loud, calling each other in. How do you guys define that?
You did it to me the other day.
Did I?
Yeah.
See, I'm good at this too.
Yeah, he's really good at it.
I'll be invoicing you later.
It's, really telling each other the truth. So I had been really distracted I have been distracted. There's lots going on in my life right now.
Yeah.
Familial and work-wise, and our amazing couples therapist died 2 weeks ago. Yeah. So there's a big, space that has gone, and someone brilliantly kind of called it she kind of represented 2 grown-ups, and someone said just like the grown-ups have gone. And it's really real. And I, maybe unconsciously and then distractedly busy, I was not being my best self. I was kind of giving all my attention to work and busyness and all the rest of it, and wasn't being the best wife. I was being a bit irritable, short, not very nice. And you very brilliantly kind of just stepped back. I kind of knew that I'd not been my best self. And so I anticipated that he felt that. The bad part is I didn't drag myself by my hair and kind of go back and say that was a crappy move and I'm really sorry, which I have on occasion done and I need to get better at. And you kind of called me into the relationship by saying, that's not cool. It doesn't feel good. And it wasn't blaming, it wasn't attacking, it was saying, that doesn't work. I don't like it. Come back. And that's what I mean by calling each other in. It's saying, you don't have to get blaming and attacking and you equally in the kind of classic RLT of how to speak. It's not about defense. It's just, I've done that. I did that.
Do you remember that, Adam?
Yes, I do. I do remember that. Yeah. And I think that's what the adult in our relationship taught us the most, I think. It's somehow being unemotional, but not in a cold way. It's being very pragmatic about it. Like she says, there's no imparting of blame. It's just an observation, a pragmatic observation, but obviously has far-reaching, effects and consequences. And the skill at being able. I feel Vic's always mentioned this. I've always felt, to a detriment, actually, very good at receiving criticism. I don't get too precious about it. We have a process as actors, particularly when you're rehearsing a play, where you'll do a day's rehearsal or you do a performance and the director comes and watches it, or you do a run of the play and you all sit round and he gives you notes.
Yeah.
Which is his job. That's what he's doing, to craft and finesse everybody's performance. And you'd be amazed at the amount of actors that find it very hard to receive the note, that take it absolutely personally. And the whole process can then become really, really frustrating because you have a series of actors all trying to justify or getting defended and you're like, just take the fucking note. It's for the greater good. It's not an attack on your personality. It's just his observation and that's his role or her role. So I've always been very pragmatic about that, about receiving criticism about me. Sometimes to a fault. Sometimes I think there are critics out there who aren't right or take liberty at it. And I know that I'm very good at receiving that. But I think the tools that Jenna, our couples therapist, gave us to do that for each other was great. I think Vix would admit that she was almost the opposite. She gets very reactive to any kind of criticism because it was so part of her original makeup to not be difficult, to present perfectly, to not be a problem, so that any criticism that came that way would instantly get a reaction to or be, But it's it's become a very important part of our communicating and relationship. It's not easy to do. It's quite hard because particularly if you know you're going to get a reaction, because then you go, oh shit, well now we've missed the point. Now we've just got somebody who's hurt and defended and angry and we're not discussing what the issue is. And then I can find the worst part of me is I then go walled off. I offer the information, it gets received in the wrong way and I go, oh, I'm done. So we're even further.
You wall off, are you up or down?
I wall off up. And
are you?
No, I don't wall off. Oh, I don't wall off at all. No, my friend. I am what?
Boundaryless.
I explode. At my worst, it's like if I'm having a shit time, you're all gonna have a shit time.
Yeah.
I will let off the stink bomb. I have no guilt about that at all.
Yeah.
I've got a lot better. But there was a point in time where I'm like, I remember there was a comic called Eddie Izzard who said he had this little bit about mad people on public transport. And he said, the only way to deal with mad people on public transport is to out-mad them. And I always have that voice in my mind. I'm like, you think you're angry? I'll show you fucking angry.
Yeah.
But it's
not funny always. Sometimes it is, but
it gets. Yeah.
Well, just even the one of the things that I've really come to about this whole one up, walled off, all that stuff and being on a bad day, being out in this hinterlands. And I think it's what you're talking about when you talk about calling each other in is I have this philosophy that like when people ask me what the secret is, I say something like the secret is taking care of your stuff, committing to health, like being healthy, going to the center of health and staying there. Don't leave. Do not leave the center of health. And eventually your people will come. The people will come and meet you there. And that's the calling in, right? It's sort of I'll meet you, but I'm going to meet you here.
Yeah.
In this healthy place. I'm not going to meet you out there. Yeah. In the crazy town, And
I think, again, to kind of honor Jenna, that is what she was. She was in this, I have had a mantra for years, it's be more Jenna, which is just this space that she was just a heart. She was just a big beating, wide open heart. And I don't mean that, she wasn't sentimental or any of those things. She'd call things out with love and just see things. And she was like, I'm here, you're there, we're in relationship. And there was just no walling off, but equally there was a boundary. And it was, I think she taught both of us to do a version of that just by being with her. Like I said, she often represented two grown-ups. Two ideal parents on a good day that could model how to be. And she wasn't someone who said, you can't get angry. She would be like, yeah, get angry and be angry, but just be accountable in it and learn how to express your anger.
I would always use humor sometimes in our sessions to deflect or to puncture the seriousness of the moment. And more often than not, she was equally humored by it and would go along with it. But every now and then, and particularly if it was a piece about me, she would not. And she would just sit there and look at me. And it was brilliant because it wasn't mean and it wasn't unkind. It was just like, It was quietly just turning the spotlight around and going, and like, oh shit. Okay.
I'm going to try that out.
Yes. It was really good
today. And then my daughter's taking me a movie and my wife's taking me out to karaoke. So I got a big day planned, but I'm so glad to finally be able to talk to you guys, pick your brains a little bit.
It's taken so long.
Yeah, it's
thanks,
been really fun.
Oh, happy birthday.
Yes, happy birthday. Have a great day.
I'm going to try anyway. I'm much more chill about my birthday than I used to be, but I think that's just a byproduct of getting older.
Yeah, once you hit the half century, what does it even mean anymore? Yeah. Although, having said that, the half century is now the new 40s, isn't it? So
yeah, right.
I suppose.
I remember when my dad turned 40, and it was like black balloons. You're over the hill, like welcome to the end of your life, kind of this whole thing. Like I was trained as like a young child that 40 was like the end. And then,
God.
No,
and now I'm like, man, this is just the beginning. This is fun.
Yeah.
Well, what are we going to do? I mean, technically we're empty nesting right now. And I don't know if you've seen this a lot, but like the sound of clients who are empty nesting is something like, well, what are we going to do now? Like, and I'm like,
that's
no, the
so
sound
many
is like,
of my couples.
Yeah.
The sound is, what are we going to do now?
Yeah.
Now what are we going to do? Like, we could do whatever we want,
Exactly.
So I'm going to come to London in October and I'm going to hang out with you guys and we're going to.
It'll be lovely to see you.
So there they are, my friends, Adam, James, and Victoria Shalet. You can follow Victoria and her practice at Space in Me Therapy on Instagram. She's seeing clients using relational life therapy in the United Kingdom. Adam, you can see on the TV. You can see him in Day of the Jackal. You can see him in Wicked if you don't blink. And I'm planning to see them in London in October. I'm going to go out there for some training and hopefully we'll get to hang out in person, have a meal, hang around. But I hope that you enjoyed them. I hope that you will enjoy the upcoming interviews that I have lined up for you. And for now, I will thank you for the time and attention you put into making your relationship better today than it was yesterday.